Hello everyone, welcome back to my video on the top 10 most masculine fragrances. What do I mean by masculine fragrances? Well, I'm talking about fragrances that make you feel something like these guys.
Nothing can stand in his way, so you better start to play, because Mr. Smelly is now on his way.
Hello everyone, welcome back to all of you in the Smelly Army. So today we're going to have a look at my top 10 most masculine designer fragrances. So inevitably this list is going to have a little bit of a retro feel because in the modern era, since we had the aquatic fragrances in the 80s and 90s and more sweet fragrances of the 21st century, things have moved away from very recognizably masculine smells in the world of men's fragrances. So sweet fragrances like 1 Million or La Nuit de l'Homme by Yves Saint Laurent have become more and more popular, and very fresh, aquatic, sporty kind of fragrances have been popular for a long time, and those smells are great for men, but they're not really noticeably in and of themselves masculine type of scent. So what do we mean by masculine scents? I think there are two main obvious categories, and that's the sort of barbershop scents, the aromatic fougères, which maybe have a slightly talcum powdery feel, lots of lavender usually, some tonka, and a sort of green mossiness about them. So there's going to be some of those, and we've also got the powerhouse type scents, so maybe things from the 80s where animalic notes are going to be in there. There will be Kouros in this list from Yves Saint Laurent, and maybe some more modern powerhouse type scents, so just things that have this powerful, rugged aura about them of masculinity. That's what we're looking for. So let's get straight into it. There's two honourable mentions, or perhaps dishonourable mentions, that aren't going to make my list. The first one, and I blind bought it just to do the video because I thought I would put it in, Bogart One Man Show by Jack Bogart. Kind of piney, green, mossy, but doesn't smell that good. So I am trying to give you scents that still smell classy and good. I've left out tons that people are going to say, why didn't you put in Van Cleef & Arpels Czar or Pour Homme? But I've gone for the ones that I really like best, and those like this, I just can't really say that I really enjoy them when I've tried them. So another one that didn't quite make it is going to be Lapidus Pour Homme. I'm almost there with liking this one, but there's something, it's a bit odd smelling to me, very powerful, and it definitely smells really masculine, but I'm not sure I could recommend wearing it, and I don't wear it in public myself. Let's get into the ones that I do recommend to everybody. So Brut by Fabergé is first, from 1965, and now you can't get it by Fabergé anymore. This one is the special reserve edition made in the USA. I also have the aftershave that you can more easily buy in shops in the UK, which is made by Unilever. Both very nice, and it's basically an aromatic fougère with a kind of talcum powder kind of thing about it, and a ferny mossiness, but a certain sweetness, lots of lavender, and there's some nice freshness as well. There's bergamot, and there are a lot of kind of floral type notes I think in there as well. There's actually listed ylang ylang, jasmine, and also geranium, and there's also basil, so there are some of these aromatics in there. Very nice green, bit powdery, floral, almost a little bit sweet, kind of talcum powder, and in its most masculine form, and a very, very likeable and actually not in any way scary or off-putting scent, although the bottle and everything has a bit of a cheesy reputation. If you can get the special reserve online, about £10 for about 100 mils. Really, really nice. Got a star anise or anise note in there, a little bit of that licorice kind of spicy feel, a sweetness. Powdery, masculine, does smell a bit like the 70s, but in a really, really good way. And actually, I honestly can recommend that. There's something you could have a couple of squirts of in the daytime for a really nice, rugged, dad kind of smell. Excellent scent though, honestly. I'm not just putting that one in for fun or anything. It's a good scent. Okay, so moving swiftly onwards, that was from 1965, staying in the 60s. We have Aramis by Aramis, the eau de toilette here. So this was from perfumer Bernard Chant, and it's really a leathery fragrance, a woody leathery fragrance. I think it's described as a woody chypre. Some of the notes include artemisia, bergamot, leather, musk, and it's a very masculine, leathery, woody, spicy kind of scent. I've got a little bit on a strip here. I bought this one for the video. Got it for just £18 for 100 and something mils. It's really impressed me, and I've really come to respect it. 110 mils when I've been smelling it for this video. Very nice, a bit of a freshness and lemony bergamot opening, but a really deep, woody, masculine, warming, rich kind of aura that actually definitely smells classy. And I can honestly recommend that I would wear that one. And it's class. It's leathery, spicy, woody, but nothing weird or off-putting, and powerful and very recognisably masculine. On the box there, they've actually said the eau de toilette for a man's body. I couldn't put it better myself. So Aramis from 1965, 66 apparently. I would highly recommend that one to check out. So moving on into the 1970s now. Givenchy Gentleman, one of the great masculine classics of all time, from Paul Leger, the perfumer. So this one has bergamot and lemon in the opening, a sort of sweet honeyed lemon accord, and honey is one of the other notes. There's also cinnamon. Crucially, there's a lot of leather, Russian leather is the listed note, a lot of woodiness, and musk and civet, animalic notes. Civet from the backside of the civet cat, a very sought after note that's long been used in perfumery, and it's got a kind of bit of a musky sweet smell and if you smell the real thing up close, a bit fecal, so it's a bit iffy to some people, but it's just used in a very careful way in perfumes. Other examples, I smelled Amouage Gold Man today, and that's got a real ton of civet, so if you want to get a real face full of that note, which you probably don't, that Amouage Gold Man, if you can try it. But this one has a touch of that. Loads of other nice, sweeter and more accessible notes. Russian leather, really leather, and tons of patchouli. It's a patchouli bomb, and it is a really classic, classy, heavy, rich, masculine, but good smell. The modern version, this is vintage. I think the perfume critic Luca Cherin described the modern one as a sad little woody, which reminded me of something my ex-wife used to say to me in the bedroom, but never mind. It's not quite as good or rich in the modern version, but it's still okay. Givenchy Gentleman from 1974, absolutely classic. So moving on then, in the 1970s still, 1978 saw the release of Polo Green. This had to make the list. Perfumer Carlos Benaim. This one, again, a woody chypre fragrance. Very green, piney and mossy. It's a really classy and smooth scent. I've sprayed some on here. If you can get the vintage, it is better than today's version, where perhaps I couldn't call it so smooth. I've got a vintage bottle here, and this is the modern version. It's definitely woody. There's leather. There's also tobacco in the notes in this one. There's definitely a real piney green feel with this one, more so than some of the others. So it kind of smells like the colour of the bottle suggests. And in the 80s, this was regarded as the smell of success. A lot of kind of country club guys in the States, apparently, the rich guys would be wearing this. So if you had a rich father figure or dad or whatever, maybe in the 80s, or an uncle or big brother, this is what they may well have smelled like. It's really classy, rich, pungent, masculine, leathery, green and woody. I really actually like the vintage formula, and I can highly recommend it. Okay, so that was Polo Green. Let's move into the 1980s. These are in chronological order, in case you hadn't noticed. So Koros from Yves Saint Laurent had to be in the list. A real musky fragrance. Musk is a key note in this one, so animalic notes are key in making things maybe smell a bit masculine. It's also got civet in it. There's leather, there's honey, there's quite a bit of sweetness, there are floral notes, there's all kinds of stuff, but the overall thing is a really rugged, clean but dirty at the same time, masculine, musky kind of smell. Very powerful, very strong, a little bit controversial probably for some noses today. The vintage is what you should try and get with the shoulders that are silver like this. The new version smells kind of the same, but just not quite as much so. Still very masculine, whichever version you get. Heavy, pungent, musky, leathery, with this mixture of musk and civet, again giving it the animalic undertone. Dirty but clean at the same time. Really nice, interesting, classic fragrance from 1981 from perfumier Pierre Bourdon. Very nice, but certainly so masculine that not everyone is going to appreciate it, but that's what we want in this list. But it is, I think, really classy and good stuff. I'm really trying to give you fragrances that I think are good, so I'm not just putting in stuff like La Place Pour Homme, where it's definitely masculine, but I'm not sure I like it. Next up then, in the same vein, we have Antaeus, is the box, from Chanel, from 1981, perfumer Jacques Polge. a lot of the same things can be said that I said about Koros, but it's a slightly more civilized, refined version of that one. This has a bit more freshness in the opening to me, and a little bit more of a sort of a warming quality about it. It's got castoreum as the main animalic note, and that can be quite a leathery smelling note. Apparently that comes from beavers' backsides, or round about there, that part of the beaver. Really nice scent though, very masculine, leathery, woody, earthy. It's named after the Greek demigod Antaeus, whose power was rooted in the ground. He had to have his feet on the ground, otherwise he became really weak. And this one has that earthy kind of theme in it, and it's really well done. It's got florals and jasmine in there, and just a little bit neater and smoother than Koros. So if you want the real rugged in your face, go for Koros, but if you want a real classy but still very masculine smell, Antaeus from 1981, I really recommend that. That's the modern formula of that one that I've got. I've had a small sample of the old one. There are some differences, but I really like the modern version. So skipping right ahead by a few years now, let's go for the late 1980s. And the scent in question is going to be Dior's Fahrenheit. So Fahrenheit from 1988, completely different thing here. This is updating the idea of masculinity for what was coming up, the 1990s, I guess. And this one is centered around a violet leaf note and an accord which is generally regarded as smelling similar to petroleum or petrol fumes. So a really fiery theme is what they're going for with the name here and the packaging and the bottle and everything. It's fiery, it's leathery, it's got a lot of this petroleum kind of undertone to it. And there's also hawthorn, not sure what hawthorn's supposed to smell like, and an indigo. I think it's quite interesting note listing. ISOE super is also in there in a big dose, apparently, that kind of synthetic woody note. Very powerful, very rugged, very masculine, but in a fiery, new, modern way at the time that we hadn't seen in the previous one. Still a classic today, and again, if you can get the vintage version, most people regard that as better. Feel free to discuss whether the new one, apparently 2017 version, is back to the old glory. Discuss in comments below. Fahrenheit, absolute classic from 1988. Moving forward then, so those were all from the old days. I've managed to get some modern ones in here too. So from 2003, we have Rive Gauche pour Homme from Yves Saint Laurent. This is another barbershop scent. So it's an aromatic fougere. It reminds me actually in many ways of Brut from Fabergé. And it's a little bit more of just a posher version of that. It smells a lot like a really nice shaving foam, everyone says. And it could be, yep. It's got lavender in it. It's got, again, anise, rosemary, clove. It's very smooth smelling. It's got certainly a heavy kind of tonka lavender mixtures, sort of certain sweetness, but definitely masculine. And yeah, got that real aura of the barbershop about it, and does have a similarity to Brut, but maybe a slightly higher quality version. Excellent stuff. The reissue version also fine that you can get in a different bottle. So totally masculine dad kind of smell, but in a more clean barbershop way, not the animalic way. So we just have a couple more to go now. Let's have a look. I did find some much more up-to-date ones that I still think are really masculine. And this is Eau Sauvage Parfum from Dior from the year 2012. And the perfumier, of course, on this one is François Demachy. So this one has 3 listed notes only: bergamot, myrrh and vetiver. It has this kind of sweet citrusy opening and a resinous incense-like smell that you get from the myrrh. And in the vetiver base, that's giving you the woodiness that again is in a lot of manly scents. I would swear there are more notes in that. I would swear there's some lavender in there. I would swear that there's more woods than just vetiver, but it's definitely woody, resinous and incensey, a little bit sweet, mysterious, deep, and it has a certain green freshness, just a touch of that in the opening as well. Absolutely masculine, absolutely powerful. All the scents in this list are strong performance. I haven't mentioned that on each one to save time, but all very strong performance. Lasts ages, projects well, definitely masculine, up-to-date smelling, or just timeless, not dated in any way, but definitely leans more towards something a mature man will want to smell like. Mature, classy, masculine, but timeless. Different to the old school smells, but right up there with them. So the 2017 version, a little bit like it, but fresher, not quite so masculine to me, but still pretty masculine, but I prefer that version. Finally, it's going to be this one from my last video, Bentley for Men Intense. And this is masculine in a boozy way. Opens with rum. That's going to tend to be a bit of a masculine type of smell. Patchouli, also in there in a heavy dose, and leather. So all of those notes, very masculine, but more of a modern, sweet take on it with the booziness. very heavy, big performer, screams of a mature gentleman, not going to be for the young crowd, and is very, very conspicuously masculine smelling in my opinion. So one of the top 10, I think, masculine designer fragrances of all time. Please let me know what you thought of the list. I'm sure I left tons of stuff out because there's so many out there. I could have done a whole list only on the 70s or only in the 80s, Zeno, Davidoff, Van Cleef & Arpels Pour Homme, but I chose the ones I like best that I've got that I think are all, not just masculine, but classy and good too. So let me know what you thought of the list. As ever, remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.